Hello, everyone. We will continue in our Bible study through the book of Psalms. Now we come to Psalms 91. Once again, a tremendous, positive, incredible psalm. Psalms 91 and verse 1, He that dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. Now, the Bible does use figures of speech sometimes. It uses allegories and analogies to point out the security that's available to us from God, the protection. You know, if you are out on a hot July day in the open and it's 100 or 105 degrees and you're sweating and you're thirsty, sure would be nice to find a nice, beautiful, wonderful shade tree that you could get under and sit down and have a cold glass of water and just relax and cool off. And that's protection, right? Well, that's what he's talking about here. He that dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty, his protection. It means you're close to him. If you're in somebody's shadow, you're close to him. You're not way off, you're close to him. I will say of the Lord, he is my refuge and my fortress, my God. In him will I trust. Surely he shall deliver you from the snare of the fowler and from the noisome pestilence. And you know, we need protection today in the society in which we live. From everything, from crime, from crazy people, from crazy drivers, and from diseases that just are floating right out there in society and in the air. And we need protection from him, from the noisome pestilence. We do. And we can ask him for that and trust him for it. Look at this, verse 4. He shall cover you with his feathers, and under his wings shall you trust. His truth shall be your shield and buckler. And there'll be people read that and they'll say, well, there you go. God has feathers and God has wings. That's not the point. That's not what he's saying. You know, this psalm, Psalms 91, the basic theme here is that when God is for you, who can be against you? When God is for you, things are going to go well. Let's turn over here to Romans chapter 8 and verse 28. Notice Romans 8:28 ties right in. A wonderful verse that sometimes is not really carefully read for what it really says. Romans 8:28, For we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are the called according to his purpose. Now, isn't that reassuring and isn't that inspiring? Do you love God? I think we love God. Have you been called of God? Well, that means if we have patience and faith and continue, all things are going to work out for the good in the long run. That's what it says. And we know that all things work together for good. Who to? To them that love God, but keep going. To them who are the called according to his purpose. What a privilege and an honor and a blessing to be in that category right there. And so sometimes when things are rough and sometimes when they're hard, we just have to keep looking to God, learning what we can learn, keep on going, and they'll begin to work out for the good in the long run. Notice here in verse 31, Romans 8. What shall we then say to these things? If God be for us, who can be against us? It's one of the most powerful verses in the Bible. As individuals, we want to make sure that God is for us. And as his church and work, we want to make sure he's for us. So how do we live in a way that he'll be for us? Well, by yielding to him, by obeying him, by serving him. And then, as Mr. Armstrong has said, he's going to be on our side if we're on his side. And when that happens, then it's like being called in and under his shadow, and it's like being pulled under his wings. He shall cover you with his wings, and his wings has feathers. But that's a figure of speech. That's an analogy of a mother hen covering her chicks. Let's read about that over here in Matthew chapter 23 and verse 37. Matthew 23 and verse 37. Look what Christ said here, Matthew 23:37. O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, you that kill the prophets and stone them which are sent unto you, how often would I have gathered your children together, even as a hen gathers her chickens under her wings, and you would not. And you would not. See, there's the analogy. If you've ever noticed chickens out in the yard, it's a beautiful thing to see a mother hen with her little chickens, and maybe a hawk flies over or the shadow of a bird flies over the chicken yard, and she'll start clucking, and those little bitties will run up to her, those little chickens will, and she'll spread her wings out, and they'll gather under her wings, and she'll cover those little chickens with her wings, and you can't even tell they're there. and she's going to protect them from that hawk or protect them from some other animal that's trying to prey on them, and she'll die for those little chickens. Well, that's the kind of personal interest that God has in his church and God has in his people. And it's like he will gather us to him and he will watch over us and protect us. And it's as if, the analogy is as if he's covering us with his wings as a mother hen covers her chickens with her wings. But that doesn't mean he has wings. He doesn't. That doesn't mean he has feathers. He doesn't. The Bible says we're made in his image. And so we are the physical form and shape that God is, except he's made out of spirit. But in talking about his love and his mercy and his protection and his presence and his constant care for us, he will use different analogies, like a shadow, like a fortress, like a rock, like coming under his wings. It's that personal. His interest, his protection, his power, his personal care for us is that detailed. And so that's what he's talking about right here. See, he goes on to say, his truth shall be your shield and buckler. Do you have a shield and buckler? No. But you do in terms of a spiritual shield and buckler. In other words, trust and truth. Verse 5, you shall not be afraid for the terror by night, nor for the arrow that flies by day. He's going to protect you. Nor for the pestilence that walks in darkness, nor for the destruction that wastes at noonday. And this world is a dangerous place. It says we live in perilous times. And so we need this protection. We really do. Otherwise, we're just going to be walking around in doubt and fear and being paranoid. We do need to be careful. We do need to be aware. We do need to take precautions. But we don't need to be running scared because we have God's protection. We do our part, he'll do his part. Verse 7, 1,000 shall fall at your side and 10,000 at your right hand, but it shall not come near you. And he's talking about not just in the time of war in ancient Israel, but he's talking about such things as plague. He's talking about such things as pandemics and so on. It's in the context of pestilence. Only with your eyes shall you behold and see the reward of the wicked. And the wicked does have a reward, like the righteous have a reward. The righteous reward, though, is blessings. The wicked's reward is curses and punishments. Because you have made the Lord, which is my refuge, even the Most High, your habitation, or your dwelling place. You have a close relationship with him. You're close to him. There shall no evil befall you, neither shall any plague come near your dwelling. For he shall give his angels charge over you to keep you in all your ways. And now in duality, it's talking about Jesus Christ. It's talking about his saints. It's talking about his people. And so here's some of the blessings that God affords us. If we are close to him, if we look to him, and if we do our part, his angels are active. They're busy. They're on the job. They're looking after his people. They're looking after his church and work. And Satan is attacking God's church and attacking God's work and attacking God's people. But he can't get anywhere because God has sent his angels to protect his work and protect his church and protect his people. And we can be thankful for that. And I'd rather be under the shadow of the Almighty and under the wings of the Almighty, figuratively speaking, than be out there twisting in the wind and going my own way and doing my own thing and just operating on my own. I don't want to be there at all. Satan can pick me off then, and all kind of horrible things can happen, and I don't have his angels looking after me, which they would be doing if I were walking with God, which I'm trying to do, and I hope you are as well. Verse 9, because you have made the Lord, which is my refuge, even the Most High, your habitation, there shall no evil befall you, neither shall any plague come near your dwelling, for he shall give his angels charge over you to keep you in all your ways. They shall bear you up in their hands, lest you dash your foot against a stone. And you've seen this in the context of Jesus Christ in the New Testament, but it also applies to God's people. You shall tread upon the lion and adder, the young lion and the dragon shall you trample under feet. That doesn't mean you run around here looking for a snake to step on, but it means if you are doing God's way and you end up in trouble with some beast or some critter out in the woods and so on, God will protect you and God will look after you if you're doing your part and you're not looking for trouble, and then you end up finding it. If you look for trouble, you'll probably find it. But if you're trying to go along and do the right thing and you come upon some trouble, God is going to look after you if you look to him in faith. Because he has set his love upon me, therefore will I deliver him. I will set him on high, because he has known my name, God is saying here. That's as if God is saying that. Because he has set his love upon me, on God, therefore will I deliver him. I will set him on high, because he has known my name. He shall call upon me. Do we do that? I think we do. As we read through here, Psalms 91, brethren, I hope we can be encouraged. Just look how personal the relationship is between us and God, and look how much he individually, specifically cares for each one of us. You know, sometimes I think we might overlook this point. We all love God, and I hope we tell him that. But how much do we take time to think about how much he loves us? And as we read in the Bible, he tells us that. We can count on that. He does love us. He's pulling for us. He knows we're weak. He knows we're frail. He knows we're human beings that can do nothing on our own. He realizes how tough life is. He realizes the temptations and the pulls. But when he sees that attitude of wanting to do the right thing, and he sees that love for him and his way, he intervenes. He steps in. He watches over us. He protects us. He covers us. And he looks after us. Because we've set our love upon him. He goes on to say, therefore will I deliver him. I will set him on high, because he's known my name. He shall call upon me, and I will answer him. Isn't that a blessing? I will be with him in trouble. Another big blessing. I will deliver him and honor him. And that's going to happen in this life, but especially in the family of God when he gives us eternal life. Verse 16, with long life or additional life or years will I satisfy him, length of days, and show him my salvation. So sometimes if you need some encouragement, if you need some perspective, and you need some strengthening, turn over here and just take time to carefully read through Psalms 91, and then apply it to God's church, apply it to God's work, apply it to yourself, to your family, to your friends in the church, and you will see that it does apply, and you'll see that God backs up these words, and you'll see that we are in good hands. And I think you'll be encouraged and uplifted by it. Okay, continuing now, Psalms 92. Psalms chapter 92. This apparently was especially written as a song for the Sabbath day. It is a good thing to give thanks unto the Lord and to sing praises unto your name, O Most High, and we certainly do that on the Sabbath in a special way, don't we? To show forth your loving kindness in the morning and your faithfulness every night. Upon an instrument of 10 strings and upon the psaltery, upon the harp with a solemn sound. Sometimes we have special music at church on stringed instruments. The piano is a stringed instrument, and special singing. It's a wonderful thing when we can do that. Verse 4, for you, Lord, have made me glad through your work. I will triumph in the works of your hands. So we're talking about the work of God in verse 4, for you, Lord, have made me glad through your work. Quite frankly, all of us were called into the truth through his work, and now other people are being called into the truth through his work. I will triumph in the works of your hands. O Lord, how great are your works, and your thoughts are very deep. A brutish man knows not, or a senseless man knows not, neither does a fool understand this. And they don't want to. They don't want to. They can't be bothered. When the wicked spring as the grass, and when all the workers of iniquity do flourish, it is that they shall be destroyed forever. It's only going to be for a little while. They're going to have to pay for their wickedness and for their iniquity. But you, Lord, are most high forevermore. For lo, your enemies, Lord, for lo, your enemies shall perish. All the workers of iniquity shall be scattered. It may not look like they're going to be scattered, but they will when God decides to do that. But my horn, my strength, shall you exalt like the horn of a unicorn. I shall be anointed with fresh oil. Mine eye also shall see my desire on my enemies, and my ears shall hear my desire of the wicked that rise up against me. And there were those that were making fun of Christ and sneering at him, but they'll pay for that, and they'll have to repent. And the same is true when people make fun of the church and the work and of you for obeying God and serving God, and you young people who try to do the right thing, and other young people kind of make fun of you and call you goody two-shoes and whatever. Don't worry about that. God says, I'm pleased with you, and I'm going to bless you. You're doing the right thing. Keep it up. I'll take care of you. You are special. in my eyes, because at your young age, you're trying to do what I say. I hope our young people see that and will do it. And God is blessing them and will continue to. But the wicked may make fun of you for doing that. So what? Who cares what they think? God is not going to make fun of you, and nobody who is trying to do the right thing will ever make fun of you. They'll admire you. Now look what it says here. Mine eyes also, verse 11, shall see my desire on my enemies, and my ears shall hear my desire of the wicked that rise up against me. Verse 12, the righteous shall flourish like the palm tree. He shall grow like a cedar in Lebanon. That's right, flourish. The righteous will. Those that be planted in the house of the Lord shall flourish in the courts of our God. Remember the Creator in the days of your youth, and you will be planted in the courts of our God, and you will be blessed as you get older, just like you're blessed now. Don't let anybody tell you differently. Honor your father and mother, and stay away from wrong things, and go toward the right things. You won't be sorry, and do it early on, too. And then keep on doing it in later years, just like it says here in verse 14. They shall bring forth fruit in old age. They shall be fat and flourishing. You know, you never get too old to overcome and grow and change. And you never get too old to bear fruit. That's what it's saying here. Look how Mr. Armstrong bore fruit on in until he was 93 years of age. All of us can. No matter what age we are, we can serve God and He will bless us, and we can bear tremendous fruit and be flourishing at an advanced age. That's what it says right here, and that's true. I've seen it. Verse 15, to show that the Lord is upright, He is my rock, and there is no unrighteousness in Him, none whatsoever. He is perfect all the time, every time, and we can count on that. Psalms 93, verse 1, the Lord reigns, He is clothed with majesty. The Lord is clothed with strength, wherewith He has girded Himself. The world also established that it cannot be moved. And it's not going to be destroyed. He's going to intervene and keep that from happening. Your throne is established of old. You are from everlasting. You are eternal. You are perfect. You are in charge. Nobody can overthrow you. Nobody can move you. Nobody can defeat you. You are our God. You are our eternal. The floods have lifted up, O Lord. The floods have lifted up their voice. The floods lift up their waves. It's kind of fun sometime to get close to a waterfall. Perhaps you've been to Niagara Falls. And you hear the roar. You know, we lived in Buffalo, and you could see the mist coming up from Niagara Falls 30 miles away. And as you got closer, you could hear the roar. And then you can get into a place where you can be under those falls, and you can't even hear one another talk. It's a deafening sound. What a roar those falls put out. And by the way, people say, well, running water won't freeze. Well, that's not true. We've seen Niagara Falls frozen from top to bottom. Just one big, vast, wide, thick sheet of ice from the top of the falls right down to the bottom. There was water running underneath. But the answer to whether or not running water will freeze, it depends on how cold it gets. Rivers freeze over. I mean, rivers that run, and they freeze over. And they freeze so thick that you can drive cars across them. But what a roar floods and waters and waves can make. And that's what he's talking about here. The floods have lifted up, O Lord. The floods have lifted up their voice. The floods lift up their waves. But look at this, verse 4, Psalms 93. The Lord on high is mightier than the noise of many waters, yea, than the mighty waves of the sea. He has a voice that when He wants to, He can drown out Niagara Falls when He wants to. Your testimonies are very sure. Holiness becomes your house, O Lord, forever. Another wonderful psalm, short, 5 verses, Psalms 93, but it's just so wonderful and so encouraging, so inspiring to read it and think about it and talk about it. Let's do that. And you'll see it does give you a big shot in the arm, a big lift. Continuing on now, Psalms 94. O Lord God, to whom vengeance belongs, O God, to whom vengeance belongs, show yourself. And so we shouldn't take vengeance unto our own selves. We should just put everything in God's hands, and He says, vengeance is mine, I will repay, and He will. Lift up yourself, thou judge of the earth, render a reward to the proud. Lord, how long shall the wicked triumph? And sometimes you wonder that, but their day is coming. And we better pray that God will have mercy on them, because when He steps in, it's going to be a powerful, crushing experience for them. How long shall they utter and speak hard things, insolent things, and all the workers of iniquity boast themselves and strut and look like they're just getting by with everything, but nobody gets by with anything. Not at all. God knows, He sees, He will repay. They break in pieces your people, O Lord, and afflict your heritage. And you can see that happening in the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob today in the Western world. They are attacked and made fun of and dealt misery by anybody and everybody who can get away with it, it seems. Now, some people love the United States and the British Empire and others of the Western world, but a lot of people just hate the Western world. They're jealous and they hate them. They try to break them in pieces, bombs and terrorism and so on. They break in pieces your people, O Lord, and afflict your heritage. They slay the widow and the stranger and murder the fatherless. Just listen to your local news. You know, I've started listening to our local news, and I'm just appalled that even in this small town of Tyler, Texas, and the surrounding cities, the crime rate is just astounding. And the type of crimes that are committed are appalling. And that's what's happening in society today, and that's what's happening in the descendants of Jacob. And we ought to know better, and we ought to be able to live better, but it seems like we've turned our back on God, and what do? We descend to this level. They slay the widow and the stranger and murder the fatherless. Yet they say, the Lord shall not see, neither shall the God of Jacob regard it. He didn't notice. He won't do anything about it. Oh yeah, He notices, all right. And He will do something about it. Understand, you brutish among the people, and you fools, when will you be wise? What are you talking about? Wake up, you're not getting by with anything. He that plants the ear, shall he not hear? He that forms the eye, shall he not see? I like the way this is described, like He takes the ear and plants it, and takes the eye and forms it. Well, in a sense, that's what He does. He created the ear, so you think He can't hear? He created the eye, so you think He doesn't see? That's the point's being made here. He hears, He sees. He that chastises, disciplines, or chastiseth the heathen, shall not He correct? He that teaches man knowledge, shall not He know? The Lord knows the thoughts of man, that they are vanity. That's right. God knows the thoughts that go through the mind of man. And He wants our thoughts to be brought into subjection to Him, and to be right thoughts, good thoughts, pure thoughts, and they can be. And He's so powerful and so unlimited. He knows our steps. He knows how many hair we have on our head, and He knows our thoughts. And He knows that in most cases, when it comes to the typical individual who is not in God's church or who is not filled with God's Spirit, the thoughts are just vanity and futile. But not true with God's people. We can honor Him with what we do and what we say and what we think. Blessed is the man whom you chastenest, or blessed is the man that you instruct or correct, O Lord, and teach him out of your law, that you may give him rest from the days of adversity, relief until the pit be digged for the wicked. So when you chasteneth us, when you correct us, when you chastise us, it's for our good, so we will change, so we will get in line with what you say, so then you can bless us, and you can give us rest from the days of adversity. And while being corrected might be painful for a while, if we need to change something, it's merciful because it's just God's way of showing us you need to change. Quit doing that and start doing this. And if you quit doing that and start doing this, then you're going to be blessed. So we need to be responsive and teachable when He deals with us. He's doing it in love. Verse 14, for the Lord will not cast off His people. He will never leave us. He will never abandon us. The Lord will not abandon or cast off His people, neither will He forsake His inheritance. But judgment shall return unto righteousness, and all the upright in heart shall follow it. Who shall rise up for me against the evildoers, or who will stand up for me against the workers of iniquity? Who's going to do that? Verse 17, unless the Lord had been my help, my soul had almost dwelt in silence. You know, you may count on some people who don't deliver when you need them to. There's some who will, but God always will. He will always do what He says, and He will always help us, and He will always protect us, and He will always fight our battles, and He'll always be there for us. if we're trying to serve him and look to him and do what he says. I hope we understand that. I hope we believe that because it's true. Verse 17, unless the Lord had been my help, my soul had almost dwelt in silence. When I said my foot slips, your mercy, O Lord, held me up. Have you ever been walking along with somebody and you stepped on a slippery part of the sidewalk or the side of the hill and you start to slip, and whoever is there with you, they just grab you and don't let you fall and break your leg or hurt yourself? I've had that happen. I've also been able to grab people to keep them from falling. Well, look at what it says here. When I said my foot slips, your mercy, Lord, help me up. Sometimes that happens even physically, but spiritually. We get in the wrong attitude, or we get around the wrong type of person, or we get in the wrong situation, and we're going to get on a slippery slope there, and God just intervenes and causes circumstances to change or causes a development to happen, and he pulls us back and clears us out of there and puts us on solid ground and heads us out in the right direction. And we realize, wow, I just got delivered from a very dangerous situation or a very bad situation. And then we can thank him for it. Once again, that's how much he cares for us, and that's how he is involved in our life with such detail. I hope we're learning that as we go through the book of Psalms. You see that God is involved in our life in great detail because he loves us so much. And we need to appreciate that and respond to him in detail. Verse 19, in the multitude of my thoughts within me, your comforts delight my soul. I hope we think about him a lot. It is inspiring. And as we study his word, we can reflect on what we've been studying, and then we'll start thinking about him and his greatness, and we can be very comforted and very strengthened and very inspired. It says, within me your comforts delight my soul. Shall the throne of iniquity have fellowship with you, which frames mischief by a law? No. They're not going to be able to fellowship with God. They're wrapped up in iniquity. They're swamped in it. Verse 21, they gather themselves together against the soul of the righteous, or the life of the righteous, and condemn the innocent blood. That's happening in our society today. And it's happened where people try to do that to the church. But look at this, verse 22. But the Lord is my defense, and my God is the rock of my refuge. And what a defense it is, and what a rock of refuge God is. And he shall bring upon them their own iniquity, and shall cut them off in their own wickedness. Yea, the Lord our God shall cut them off, and he will. Psalms chapter 95, once again, another beautiful, wonderful, inspiring, uplifting psalm. Notice here, verse 1, Psalms 95, O come, let us sing unto the Lord. Let us make a joyful noise to the rock of our salvation. Brethren, I want to urge you to learn to do that. We don't have to do it in public, and we don't have to push it on people. But it doesn't matter if you can carry a tune or if you're on pitch. He's not looking for some Juilliard School of Music graduate who just hits every note perfectly or doesn't sing at all. He's interested in the attitude, and do we mean it when we sing to him? And are we offering up praise to him from the heart? It's beautiful to him. It's a joyful sound. Let us make a joyful noise to the rock of our salvation. Let us come before his presence with thanksgiving and make a joyful noise unto him with psalms. Once again, we do this on the Sabbath, but we can do it every day of the week. For the Lord is a great God and a great King above all gods. In his hand are the deep places of the earth. The strength of the hills is his also. The sea is his, and he made it, and his hands formed the dry land. O come, let us worship and bow down. Let us kneel before the Lord our Maker. Look at the attitude David had. He just loved God, and he thought about this, and he wrote about this, and he sung about this. And he was preoccupied with it, just as a way of life. I hope we're picking this up as we go through the book of Psalms. And we can become people who are people after God's own heart. David doesn't have to be the only one who was a man after God's own heart. We can all be men and women after God's own heart, and even young people after God's own heart. We can. O come and let us worship and bow down. Let us kneel before the Lord our Maker, for he is our God, and we are the people of his pasture and the sheep of his hand. Today, if you will hear his voice, harden not your heart, as in the provocation. And there were several times that there was provocation in the wilderness when Israel came out of Egypt and wandered for 40 years. We want to make sure we're not provoking God, and we're not tempting him and testing him and pushing him and disrespecting him. Harden not your heart as in the provocation, and as in the day of temptation in the wilderness, when your fathers tempted me, proved me, and saw my work, and pushed me and disrespected me. God said, in essence, and I was just reading it in the book of Deuteronomy, you've been against me since the day I brought you out of Egypt. And Moses said, you've been a pain ever since I've known you. I'm paraphrasing it. And that's the truth. Well, God doesn't want us to be that way. And I hope we aren't, and I don't think we are at all. Look at this, verse 10. 40 years long, 40 years long was I grieved with this generation. And some translations say, I was disgusted with you because of their rotten attitude. All the things he did for them, and they just turned their back on him over and over again. 40 years long was I grieved with this generation, and said, it is a people that do err in their heart, and they have not known my ways, unto whom I swear in my wrath that they shall not enter into my rest. No, and they didn't. They didn't go over the Jordan into the promised land, and they're not going to be in the millennial reign of Jesus Christ. They're going to have to wait for the second resurrection after the millennial rest and reign of Jesus Christ. That brings us to the end of Psalms chapter 95. Until next time, this is Charles Bryce with the Enduring Church of God.